Good afternoon. I'd like to call the August 6th meeting of the Salina City Commission to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Jennings.
Here.
Commissioner Angel. Here. Commissioner Crawford. Here. Commissioner Householder.
Here.
Commissioner Shirley. Here.
Would all those that are able to please join and rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We start our meeting today with the Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity for the citizens of Salina that are present to come forward and state any concerns or anything that they would like to bring before the commission that is not a published part of today's agenda. So if we have any citizens here today that would like to make any comments, please come forward, state your name and your address. Okay, let's get you that mic.
Thank you. My name is Elwin Thrush, 412 West Elm. I'm here for the umpteenth time. Hopefully I can get into somebody's nerve or make them realize what my situation is. And I'm going to start with a question. How many of you would send your child or children out to the street and play in the traffic? In other words, run back and forth across the street.
Well, I appreciate the question, but we actually have this for comments. So you please comment, but the commissioners feel not bound to answer any questions that are asked.
All right. Well, I know you probably won't.
I think you would know the answer to that question.
Right.
It sounds a little rhetorical, but
But the reason I asked that is because you're expecting us disabled people that drive electric scooters to play in the street, run back and forth across the street, trying to find what is an applicable sidewalk. What is an applicable sidewalk? Well, that means, well, that depends on what your opinion is and anybody else's opinion. And the problem I'm having is with the police. The police got their opinion, and I'm the one that's riding on it with the electric wheelchair scooter that don't have suspension to talk about. There's none in the front whatsoever. And why, if I'm the one that's riding on it, why shouldn't I have the say-so what is applicable and what is not?
are you referring to the city code that talks about a width or the size of a crack?
Well, all it states in the code is, let me get it here. Where a sidewalk is provided, and its use is practical, it shall be unlawful for any pedestrian to walk along and upon a adjacent road. So now what is applicable? My opinion on applicable, if it's got more than a half-inch difference between the sidewalk, then it's not applicable for me with this rough of a scooter.
Yeah, and I would say that we've talked about this in the past, not necessarily with you, but just with joggers and small children walkers. And one of the things that we definitely want the citizens to know is that the sidewalks, when somebody has a sidewalk that's in disrepair, a root has caused it to crack and heave, those things need to be reported so that they can get fixed. The property owner's responsible to maintain the sidewalks out in front of their home.
Well, I have showed the city manager, I forget your name, sorry. But I have showed him a CD where some of the sidewalks are rough and there's no ramp on them and nothing has been done yet. And with my heart condition, I'm not supposed to be out in the heat any more than absolutely necessary. Same as cold weather. Well, if I got to take these so-called, what the police call APCO sidewalks, then that means I got to go slow, which means it could end up killing me. Now, I know there's probably more than just me that's running on electric wheelchair scooters that has the same problem. And
I'm going to ask the city manager a question. I didn't mean to interrupt you. If you were in mid-thought, please finish.
no, that's all right,
Okay.
go ahead.
Mr. Gage, do we have something that talks about the condition of a sidewalk and how a citizen can report something that's in disrepair so that safety concerns can be addressed and sidewalks can be taken care of?
We do, and I think what Mr. Thrush is kind of referring to is a lot of that is actually in the standard traffic ordinance that we adopt, which is a culmination of the state traffic laws, which in the state of Kansas, the emphasis is to place pedestrians, those in motorized chairs, things such as that, on the sidewalk first, because I can't speak to any hazard with the bumps. What I can speak to, though, is when you take a small vehicle or someone that's not protected and put them out in the street where the traffic can move along at least 30 miles an hour, if not faster, you can create with that mixture a dangerous situation that I'm pretty sure has a higher potential for danger than the other. But regardless of that, it's not a police department discretion issue, it's a state law issue. Now, certainly, if there's an area where there is no sidewalk, then if my recollection is correct, the standard traffic ordinance says you need to try to use the area between where a sidewalk would be and the curb. If that's not available, maybe there are plantings, maybe it's rough, whatever that is, then certainly there's a right to be on the street. But there's some common sense and good judgment that needs to be applied in those circumstances. So there are places in town that Mr. Thrush could legally be on the street if the other alternatives are not available. But if those alternatives are available, the state law says try to stay off the street where the state law believes it's safest.
Yeah, our discretion in this area is in the repair and the maintenance of what exists. We don't have the capability to change a state law that Mr. Gage is referring to.
Well, the thing that gets me, though, there's 4 years, at least 4 years, I drove on the street on a smaller three-wheeler, plus this one. I've drove this one for 2 years on the street on the right-hand side and never had even a close call of an accident or somebody else getting in an accident because I was on the street. Very few people, the public that is, has ever said a smart remark. You're going to have some smart remarks no matter which way you go. There's people that's that way. But I've never had any problem with most of the people. Whenever I'd slow them down because I was, trying to get around parked vehicles, as soon as I got over and they start past me, I'd wave at them. In other words, letting them know that I thank them for not blowing their horn or, saying anything word nasty. And like I say, I've very few problems. And another thing I want to say, it is a whole lot safer on one of these to be on the street because people that's driving vehicles except for this big monster I got here. When you're crossing the crosswalk, even the walkers, when they cross the crosswalk, they take and they end up have to yell at the person making a left turn to stop. Because when I first started with the electric wheelchair scooter, at 9th and Elm, I've had to be going across the crosswalk and wave like crazy and yell at the driver to stop because he was turning right in towards you.
Yeah,
But as soon as I got out on the street, which at time I'm referring to, and nobody has showed me what happened to it, but at one time, I know the councilman, or commissioners rather, had passed where we were legal on the streets at one time because it was on Access TV. But for me to get it, I had to have the actual date that it aired. Well, I don't remember the exact date it aired, but I do remember seeing it. When I started on the street at 9th and Elm, even with the little three-wheeler, I did not have any problems with anybody making a left turn.
well, I think I understand all your comments, and I appreciate them. We still need to advise you and any citizens that are watching to uphold the state laws that the police are required to enforce, and that when there's deficiencies within sidewalks provided, that there is the method in which if a person can make a complaint so that those things can be fixed by the property owner, and that's the city commission's role. We don't have a role in the ability to change and write a description of when you can ride in the street and when you can't ride in the street on a motorized scooter. That statute exists, so we just can encourage you to follow it.
We're not riding on the street. We're walking on the street. We are a pedestrian.
Okay, so walking on through the use of your scooter on the street, we still have to say to adhere to that existing state law. We can't tell you to break a state law. That's not what we exist based upon what safety concern is yours versus somebody else's. We just don't exist to do that, sir.
So then who has to say so on what is applicable and what ain't?
Well, I would say if your issue is with a state law, then I would talk to those that are within the state that have the ability to affect state laws.
Well, I can't.
If you had an issue with a city ordinance, then the city commission could help you out with that.
Yeah.
Well, I can't drive this all the way to Topeka.
I understand, sir, but
So-
the concern is not of something that the city commission can do. If you're here to ask how you can get sidewalk conditions improved, we can help you with that and tell you that.
Well, it seems like to me I've read in the state ball deal, something about the city commissioners could override the state balls in the city.
Did you relay the comments that you wanted to, or are you asking for us at some point in time to consider changing the state law?
Well, I think something needs to be done, because sidewalks, the way it's going is going to take a lifetime for me anyhow. And if I have to keep driving slower in the heat and cold, well, that's going to kill me.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Are there any other comments from citizens today? Seeing none, today we have no awards and proclamations, and we have nothing scheduled for public hearings, items of a certain time, so we'll move on to the consent agenda.
6.1, approve the minutes of July 23rd, 2012. Item 6.2, authorize the replacement of the HVAC system at Fire Station Number 3 with Pestinger's Heating and Air Conditioning in the amount of $25,603.
Are there any items that Commissioner would like to have removed from the consent agenda? I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda is read. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We have no development business today, so we'll move on to administration.
Item 8.1, first reading, ordinance number 12-10649, amending Chapter 1 of the Salina Code by adding sections 1-5.1 and 1-5.2 pertaining to the consideration and publication of ordinances.
Who's got the lead on this? Chief Mulligan is listed, or? No, sorry, Mr. Pinkston. I was
Yes.
looking at the wrong sheet of paper.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. At your meeting on July 23rd, we discussed the ramifications from the legislative change that did two things. One, that eliminated the state-dictated two-reading process as you consider ordinances, and also enables us to publish ordinances by summary as long as the ordinance can be set out in full on the city's website. At that time, you directed staff to prepare an ordinance that would retain the two-reading process, much as we had been under state law, and also to take the steps necessary to implement the system by which we can utilize the publication by summary. The ordinance before you is intended to carry out your wishes in that regard. In looking at it and thinking about it, we thought it best to codify these two provisions, and that's why you see them set out as additional sections in the Salina Code. The first, relating to the consideration of ordinances, retains the two-reading process with certain exceptions. The first is an ordinance providing for appropriation of funds. The reason I say that, at your place you will see discussion among staff, even as late as today. We did make one suggestion of a modification. The version you saw in your packet referred strictly to appropriation of funds. That was the former statutory language. In the process that you utilize, of course, involves both the budgeting and appropriation of funds, and staff would recommend that in order to address that process together, as you usually do, that that exception be expanded to read as it does in this latest proposed version, to include both ordinances providing for budgeting and or appropriation of funds. The second exception, as you might expect, is where there are other processes provided for as a matter of state law. And the third is, you might recall that the former state law language referred to emergencies, and that was always seemed to be somewhat of a misnomer, when usually it was more a matter of a compelling public purpose. So that is why we suggested characterizing that as being the test as to whether you would want to take action on the same day. Then under Section 2, that new Section 1-5.2 under the Code meets the requisites set out in state law in order to avail yourself of that ability to publish by summary, expecting that you might want this ordinance on ordinances to be the first ordinance that you publish by summary. That is addressed in Section 3 with the proposed summary. So be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff at this time?
No, but I don't think we can publish it in summary till we publish it first.
Well,
I should have been an attorney and paid for the city commissioner, dang it.
It's a good point, and I actually considered that point.
Yeah, I know you did.
I think you're in a position to do so.
So at this point in time, if there's no further questions, is there any other discussion? I'd entertain a motion.
I move we approve on first reading ordinance number 12-10649, amending chapter 1 of the Salina Code by adding sections 1 through 1.5.1 through 1.5.2 pertaining to the consideration and publication of ordinances.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 12-10649. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Do we have any other business at this point in time? Then I'd entertain one final motion.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting's adjourned.